Welcome to the Change Energizer Hot Seat Podcast. This is a place where leaders are dropped into the hot seat about high stake wins and reveal the trust factor behind their triumphs. I'm your host, Scott Carley, the Trust Energizer, and I believe the confidence people have in the way you show up, your character, and your expertise is a real game changer. When trust is high, people don't just perform, they pull off legendary Super Bowl wins. Today, our guest is Kellee Strople, an amazing devotional artist. You call Kellee when you want deep healing from major life trauma through your faith in God. Kellee, we're so happy to have you with us today. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Scott. I am so happy to be here.
Yeah,
Really
we're gonna
appreciate it.
yeah, we're gonna have a great time. Kellee and I met, I don't know, was it like 7 or 8 years ago?
It was. Yep.
Yeah,
And friends of Peter.
yeah, that's right. Friends of Peter Strople, her husband, just a great guy. And I met him in Austin at a thing called Prince of Peter. I was invited to come and just built a great relationship, friendship, and then eventually Kellee. And so we just got to know each other, and this is just a wonderful family. And now she is in this really new, cool space. And I don't know how new it is. She's probably been doing it for a while, but she writes devotions. So Kellee, tell us just a little bit about, who you are and what you do with these
Sure.
devotions, and then we'll jump in.
You got it. Well, thank you again, Scott. This is exciting and pretty new to me, as well as writing devotionals. I have been writing them for the last couple of years. And you were asking how I started this. You know, I think I went through some changes in my life, and being apart and away from my kids has been rough. They're back in Nebraska and Colorado, and I'm down in Texas. And as the kids have gotten older, they've gotten harder to get a hold of. They're moving on with their lives, and I want to let them. And I just had this hole in my heart, and so I started writing to fill that hole. And so going back a couple years ago, I didn't know what I was necessarily going to do with them. Um, it seems like everywhere I go, somebody is asking me, when are you going to have your book? And so I know that that's coming at some point. But for now, I started with devotionals because that's what I was using every day, devotionals. So that would get me aligned, get my heart centered for the day. And I started to write, and pretty soon one turned into several. So that's how I got started.
Yes. Okay. I love that. I love that story. One of the things that this podcast is built on, it's built on trust. And trust is a confidence that people have in your character and in your expertise.
Mhm.
And what's really neat about this episode is you are opening your heart, and you're gonna tell us about some things today that you may not always want the whole wide world to know, but there's some traumas that you've been through, and your transparency creates trust in our audience and helps them to say, "Oh, tell me more." So I'm just going to give you the chance to, just open up. I got a few questions I want to ask you to help me understand your story. We all have a story, and
Mhm.
I personally think that it's a great idea to be able to bring that story out so other people can hear it because it helps them deal with the same stuff that you went through, and
Sure.
and and sometimes how you conquered it, and sometimes how you still struggle with it. So.
Hmm.
Um, in writing, I've heard at least a couple of your devotionals, and they're pretty cool. But Kellee, what was the moment when you realized that your devotional writing wasn't just for you, but it was for other people too? I mean, was there a prayer or a breakthrough that made you think, boy, this needs to be shared?
There, I don't know if there was a definite day or time, but I knew that my story wasn't going to be for me alone. That it would be used. I guess I've always thought that I heard God saying, if I'm going to bring you through this, this isn't for you to keep to yourself. You're going to share it with the world. and I am an open book in some ways because um, it's too burdensome, and God's been too good to me. You know what I mean? To keep this all to myself. So um, yeah, I'm excited to write. I love putting my whatever's on my heart that day on paper, and the way I go about it is I write what's on my heart, and then I pray over it before I post it, that the right person that is needing to hear those words will read it that day. And that's where I see the God winks in all of this. So it's been really cool.
Yeah, I love that. It's almost like you're looking up and saying, "Okay, God, you've got somebody in mind. Who is it? Give me something to
Exactly.
write, and let's put it out there for them." And there's something that occurs to me just as we were talking. You said that, the Lord spoke to you and said, "When you go through this, I don't
Mhm.
want you to hold it to yourself. I want you to share it with the world because they need to hear this." And there are people who receive that very much and say, "Thank you." And then there
Mhm.
are other people who say, well, who does she think she is? I mean, she's
Sure.
just sharing all this stuff and she just wants to make a name. What do you say to people like that when they come up with stuff like that? Isn't it crazy?
It is. And thankfully, I haven't heard anything negative, but I know just being alive this day and age that goes on. And, my job is to just speak truth. And um, I am living proof of what God has done in my life. And so, everybody has their own story, and my story is not going to be the same as anybody else's. But if I can at all um, be a vessel, then at the end of the day, I feel like I'm doing what God has put me on this earth to do. So for me, it's writing that I can get that out. Um, this podcast I'm excited about because, you know, you keep it pretty within boundaries, I would say, for a Facebook post, but a podcast gives you that ability to kind of get into the meat, if you will. So,
Yeah, that's exactly right. And gives you a platform where you can open up and peel back the onion and let people see what the real deal is.
mhm,
And that kind of brings us to the next thing. So your journey, I mean, you have quite a journey. Your journey of quitting alcohol is
mhm.
deeply personal. How did that season become the soil where your faith and your voice grew stronger?
Um, well, I'm gonna have to just, I guess, tell this my way, maybe a little bit. I got sick and tired of being sick and tired, and um, I'm kind of a determined person anyway. And when I finally got fed up and mad, I needed something to do, and I needed to fill that space with positivity and just I needed to fill it with Jesus, truthfully, Scott. And my mother taught me that at a very young age, and so
That's
um,
good. That's all
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah. So it's just I started reading these devotions. I started pouring into myself. Um, I made sure that everything that I was listening to um, was was positive. Everything that I was watching was positive, and um, the Bible says that he who began a good work in you will be faithful to complete it. And I just walked by that because I knew that God was stirring something up in me, that he wasn't going to allow me to be stuck anymore in my own mess. And I had the attitude that I was ready to be obedient. And so by taking away the alcohol and pouring into myself with devotionals and reading and writing and everything that I did, I had to have something fill all that time that I was sitting around in my own sorrow. And so I exchanged that and clarity and beauty.
Yeah, I love that. Love that. I can see it and feel it, as you say that. Healing is a beautiful thing. And would you say that it's fair to say that as you put the alcohol aside and you started looking into these devotions and you begin to write them, read them and write them, that you were experiencing the healing and one healing brings another healing, and you feel good
Absolutely.
about it and you want to share, hey, my heart's not broken like it used to be, and I,
Exactly.
I don't feel beat up like I used to be. I feel good actually.
It was awesome because every day was not only another day of sobriety, but it was more than just that win. It was pouring back into my life. And um, yeah, as the days added up, so did the devotionals. So um, now I don't know if you know this, but I am 2 years sober. So
Oh wow.
February is 2 years for me. And it's I don't even have an exact day because I didn't know I was going to quit. I just decided to. So I know it was February. Um, I know that I was thinking about it in January, and then February I finally did it. So here we are 2 years later, and thank the Lord I don't miss one day of it.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. My stepfather was an alcoholic that went through AA and got sober, and he was only my stepfather for I don't know 3 or 4 years. But I went to Alateens as a teenager and learned the Serenity Prayer and learned about AA and all of that. And every now and then you'll see somebody on Amazon put up a post, I'm 322 days sober, or, I'm 1 year and 8 months sober, because
Hmm.
it is a celebration. It's a fight. And for many, it doesn't come easy at all. And that's why there's AA and there's other programs to support people. So 2 years.
two
Way
years.
to go. Congratulations. That's a
Thank
big
you.
deal. Yeah.
Thank
And it's
you
not 2 years in isolation. It's 2 years in life with drinks all around you, maybe, or to some degree. And
for
you
sure.
you still have that ability to say, it's not for me. I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, my prayer personally has been that God would just continue to make my stomach a little sick at the sight, at the thought, at the um, temptation, and there hasn't been any temptation, but there has definitely been those moments when you're like, "Oh, I remember how that one tastes," stuff like that, and I'm like, "No, no, 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 don't even go there. That's just flirting." So yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's
not worth the
been,
pain. It's not worth the
it's
pain.
not, it's not. So anyway.
Yeah, well that's good. Okay, well I want to ask you a question. When you
Hmm.
sit down to write a devotional, okay, it's like, oh, all right, man, it's Monday morning. I need to sit down and write a devotional. So what do you hope happens inside the reader's heart when they're reading the devotional that you're writing? Now you just kind of answered it early on,
Right.
but
I
go
did
into
a
that
little
more.
bit.
Tell us about that.
Sure. Because I think earlier I was saying that I know that God will bring the right person. So when I'm writing, I'm not necessarily thinking, okay, what is it that I think somebody else is going to need today? I'm writing um, as my conversation, my prayer to God. And that's when I realized that God was saying, no, you don't get to keep all this to yourself. I'm giving you truth. I'm giving you peace. I'm giving you hope and promise of that future and prosperity and deliverance and guidance. And, I could go on and on and on and on and on of all the beautiful things that God has shown me and given to me through this. And it literally has stirred up my soul. And I do feel like a lion inside. Like I just want to roar because it's been so powerful. And there are times where it's a sweet, sweet whisper. And there's other times that I just feel like I can conquer the world. And I think that's just all part of it. I was actually going back through some of my devotionals today and thinking, okay, if I were to share one, where would I start? And I saw the journey that God has had me on from the beginning to now through my writing. And I weep at my own devotionals because they move me. And so I pray that it moves that person, that that person at the end of that devotion says, um, something awakens in their spirit, whatever that may be, whether it needs to be boldness for them or hope or security, peace, whatever that may be. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I can hear them. I can hear them say, God, thank you for getting Kellee to write those things. I needed to hear that today. And I will tell you, there's no shame in shouting or crying. Yesterday, we go to church, and yesterday on the way to church, I was listening to Kirk Franklin's Stomp, and I like that kind of gospel music. I don't listen to it all
mhm.
the time, but I do. Man, I got out of my truck, I went into church, and man, I was just ready to go, and I told our pastor, I said, "Hey, I want you to know, I was listening to Kirk Franklin today, and so I'm pretty jacked up. I'm ready to
You're on
go." And he
fire.
laughed and
Yeah.
smiled, and so thank God that he was a writer who put that in there that inspired
Mm.
me.
Yep.
And what if he had kept all that stuff to himself?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And you have no idea. I mean, as of how many people as they listen to this, they're going to come out of their bedroom or come out of their devotional room or wherever they are, get out of their car because they're listening to it on Audible, and they're going to, be able to, you know, tackle anything that comes against them.
Hmm.
And it's okay to say, "Woo, yes, yes,"
Yeah.
because that's
That's been the
ours.
most rewarding. The calls that I've gotten, or that Peter has gotten, about something completely different. It could be about, I don't know, Bitcoin. And they start out the conversation, hey, by the way, I saw what your wife wrote on Facebook. Her devotional is incredible. It could be a former colonel. I mean, it's amazing the people that um, have gotten back to me and the men that have reached out and have said, wow, she can write. I think that's just the greatest feeling.
Yes, it is. It is. And you brought something up. You just skimmed right by it, but I want to pull it out.
Sure.
Sometimes people think that the only people who struggle with alcohol or other issues and problems are people who, just barely making it in life, and they're living in a mud hut somewhere or a cardboard shack or by the side of the road. That's not
Yeah.
true, is it?
Not at all. No.
People who
Um,
have made it to the top of the ladder, a lot of those are struggling with some of those things. Is that right?
would you mind if I shared a second, just kind of how it um, kind of turned my life upside down?
Yes, I'd love for you to.
Okay. I'll just give you
Our
some.
audience would love for you to.
Uh, well, so I was born and raised um, in a kind of, I would say, I would definitely a Christian home. It was the kind of home where my mom um, is what back in the day she would have been called a, I don't know, a Bible beater. I mean, she was very charismatic and loved the Lord with all of her heart, and she gave me that passion for the Lord. My father um, is a very successful businessman, and there was a lot of drinking in our home. We drank for parties. We drank because it was the weekend, because of holidays. We drank because it was Monday night. I mean, it was just the way it was. We everything. You ended the day with a drink, a beverage, and that wasn't a problem for me until later on in life. My sister was taken from us. She um, she was in a relationship, and a year into that new relationship, she was gone and killed with bare hands, and it really shook our world, as you can
Yeah,
imagine.
I can imagine.
And we we got through that. Um, we got through that, but I remember the very first thing we all did was grab some drinks to sit around and you know be together in our sorrow. And that was that's just the way we medicated. Um, and yet we were building churches and building businesses and living our lives all week long. So I guess that's what you would call a functional alcoholic. I don't know. I don't think that it was a problem for me yet at that point, but definitely for others in my family. Um, and then after my sister passed, about 4 months later, I was diagnosed with MS.
Mm,
And what I quickly found was that if I had a little bit of, say, like some vodka and orange juice, then I didn't have that neurological pain in my feet and I could walk. And so before the doctors kind of got me squared away on the right medications, I was self-medicating. And and it worked for a little bit, but I realized, that was no way to live. And so kind of got on top of that, but then started drinking wine more regularly in the evening. Um, and then just we had a move. Our kids were growing up, and then all of a sudden, um, and my mom, let me back up a second, the mother that introduced me to Christ at a very young age, she was diagnosed with MS the year before I was even born.
mm.
And she entered a nursing home at 41. So
Wow.
my entire adult life, my mom was in a nursing home,
Wow.
and that had its own challenges. But right around, I don't know, I want to say around 2013, maybe ish. She really started getting worse, and out of the blue, we got news that my brother had cancer.
Mm,
And I was the middle child. So my sister was gone. My brother was 2 years older. He gets this terrible news that he has cancer. And 2 months later, he's gone.
mm.
And um, about 3 months after no, I'm sorry, 6 months after my brother passed, my mom passed in that nursing
Man.
home. So it was just boom, boom, boom. And my family, except for my father, everybody was gone, of my siblings and my mom. And then I had a son in college and a 16-year-old daughter at home. And you can imagine those being my most regretful moments, of having this problem of drinking too much with all this death occurring, and then um, having children. It's I wasn't going to get Mother of the Year award, let's say that. But I also thought I was handling it well because we were a close, we were called a poster family by our pastor because we were
Yeah.
leading worship and doing so many things and building these churches and then going home. Nobody knew the sadness at the end of the night.
Yeah.
And so we hit it well.
People
So
hide it
anyway,
well. I was going to say, yeah, people
yeah.
hide it well.
So through that, there was a marriage of 25 years that just became so toxic that we didn't have the tools to help each other. Um, he was hurting, I was hurting, and um, through that, there were a lot of mistakes, and I made a decision that I needed to love myself, and so I left, and um, unfortunately, it was well, if you're going to leave, then we're going to get divorced, that kind of thing, and so he filed, and then there I was starting my life over, and so the problems really weren't fixed. However, um, because of that rooted relationship that I have in Christ, I knew that that God was with me through that entire time. So it's a lot, and I didn't mean to take up too much time on your podcast, Scott.
Oh no,
It,
this is what I
it's
mean, this is what it's for. And
okay.
your story adds so much weight and understanding to these devotions. You know, when people who have been through excruciating pain can can find healing somewhere, through
Mhm,
God, and then put it into writing, it makes your words so much more authentic than if
mhm.
they just came out of something that was a clean white sheet of paper that didn't have any blood all over it. And you have
Yeah.
bruises and blood all over your devotional sheets.
Yeah, and for the longest time, I was waiting for that redemption. And even though I was kind of like pulling up my boots and going out into the world, and I've had this incredible opportunity to meet my husband and be a part of Friends of Peter, and surround myself with all these amazing people. I still was a broken cookie inside. And thankfully, I had somebody so mature and patient and loving and supportive. And I mean, he saw my pain, but he also saw um, my potential.
Yeah,
And I'm just forever grateful for Peter um, in my life, because there was nothing about him said, you will or else. There was never any of that.
yeah.
It was just, she will when she's ready, those kinds
Yeah.
of whispers. And I
Y'all
did.
make a great couple. I mean and he beams when you're around, and he talks so well of you all the time. So uh,
He
yeah,
calls me his hero. So I will take that.
yeah, I love that. That's so cool. Thank you for sharing that, because, like I just said, you know, we um, we don't we don't resonate with people who live in ivory towers and have never their foot has never gotten dirty. And so that all this makes a lot more uh, valid to us. So let me
Hmm.
ask you a question. If you're ready, can I
Sure.
ask you another one?
Sure.
So you've talked a lot about removing hooks and distractions and obligations and unhealthy ties. What hooks did God help you remove, and how did that freedom shape your writing?
Well, um, wow. I could go deep or I could keep it light. You
It's
know,
up to you. You tell as much or as little as you want to tell. I mean, that's just the best way to say
sure.
it.
Well, you know, COVID hit, and we went to this little town, and we were able to escape the city for our own health reasons. Me with MS and having, um, a compromised immune system. I was taking chemo, a form of chemo for that. And then Peter, with his heart attacks and
I
stroke,
know you guys both had stuff just together, and it was like
we
touch and
did.
go. We're all going, "Oh my God." So
But we found this area that allowed us to get outside and golf, and nobody knew us, and we ended up staying. And it took a long time for me to understand, like, Lord, what is going on here? What is going on? And I realized that I'm here to heal. And when I realized that this was a sanctuary for me to heal and to um, just get away from the noise. And I'm not saying it's everything is noise. I mean, if we didn't have our phone ringing off the hook, we'd be feeling like, oh no, what have we done? So,
yeah,
but I mean that when you go from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting, like we do when we're in town, um, you don't really have the time to focus on yourself and what God is saying to you. And I have had a lot of time to listen and to I'm such an imperfect perfection that or an imperfect progress, I guess, would be the what I'd say. That anyway, um, that every day is a new, fresh day to continue this this journey of healing. And when I realized that this isn't home, this is a gift, and I started using that for healing purposes, getting a gym membership, um, changing the atmosphere of that gym with something as small as a smile
Yeah.
and a hello, and pouring into the community in the ways that only Friends of Peter knows how to do. We
Yeah.
have had more meetings at the local golf resort and restaurant here, and people that have come to us, and it's allowed us to um, just to receive God's blessing. And
Yeah.
now that I'm 2 years sober, though, I'm raring to go. I mean, I'm just like, okay, what now? What now? What
Yeah.
now? What now?
I
So
love it. It's like you get your cast off. A kid,
yeah,
all right, where's my bicycle? I know I broke my arm on
exactly.
my bicycle, but my cast is off now. I want to go, get back into
Hmm.
doing fun, being a kid and having fun. Yeah,
Exactly.
I love that. One of the interesting thresholds that I went through, and maybe you can relate to this some way as well. There's a lot of healing that comes to us emotionally. I went through a horrific divorce that I caused, and it was terrible. And thankfully, the Lord helped me to rebuild my trust with my kids and with the community and a lot of stuff. But I can remember, um, I don't know, maybe 4 years. I don't really remember the day that it happened at all. But at some point, I was filling out a form, and it said. So, what's your status? So, all right, I'm a Mr., Scott Carley. Okay. Are you single, married, divorced? What are you? And for, since that day, in September of 2005, whatever it was, I got divorced, I would check divorced. I'm divorced. I'm divorced. And and it defined me. It was just a place in my life, but I don't know, somewhere something happened
Mhm.
and I was filling something out and it said, what's your status? Single, married, divorced. And I went, I'm single. I'm not, well, no, that was
Oh,
okay.
well, I see what you're saying. Yep, I do.
It was,
I'm
it was
following you.
good because I'm single. I'm not
Right,
defined anymore by an event that happened 5 years
right.
ago that that I had a big part in, but
Hmm.
it represented some of the healing and some of the restoration of
Absolutely.
dignity, the erosion of shame out of me and coming back into, hey, I'm Scott Carley again.
That's
I'm not
right.
the divorced guy. And so that's some of what I hear you say. And whatever those defining moments are, when we mark something and say, hey, I'm not that anymore. I
Hmm.
met Peter, got married. I feel loved. I feel protected.
Yeah,
I feel like that. I'm not standing on a Nebraska prairie in a blizzard with the wind,
exactly.
just going at me. I've got this guy beside me, and I've got God. But and that's what I
Hmm.
hear.
That's exactly right. Um, I even called it strip naked and put on Main Street, is how I felt.
Oh man, I can
Um,
relate.
you know, and it I wouldn't have even thought of that had we not been talking like this, because it's so far in the past. And this has just had such a redemption um, to it. It's been so neat because Peter's gotten to see the good, the bad, the ugly, and yet we've never been closer, stronger, and had our eye on the prize like we do right now. So
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, I can't say enough good about get sober, folks.
Yeah, that's good. And I want to say to our audience right now, I hope, as y'all are listening to Kelly's story and tidbits of my story as well, there are definitely times that, it's like she said, strip naked out in the middle of the city, something like that. And you just feel like everybody can see right through you and you feel shame or you just feel horrible. I can remember as I was trying to make a living and go through my divorce and all of that stuff. I felt like I was on a bus that was moving through town, but I would fall off all the time with a rope tied around my foot. It'd be dragging me and I'd get all beat up and it would stop and I'd climb back on the bus and then fall off again. And the falling off didn't mean I did anything wrong. It's just life knocks you down and
Mhm.
life's not fair. And in the audience, you maybe feel like you're dragged behind a bus or standing in the middle of the city, stripped naked, but
Mhm.
keep going. Don't
Mhm.
stop. Read some of Kelly's devotions and find that you're not alone in this journey, that there are other people and that, we're here for you. And that's why Kelly's here, writing this devotion. So that leads me to the another question, and I'm almost finished here, and that is if someone reads your devotionals 5 years from now, what do you want them to say? Kelly helped me what?
Grow, never stop growing. Um, you know, back when all of these things were kind of piling up, I had people say, how do you even get out of bed in the morning? And number one, I prayed about it. The days that I didn't feel like getting out of bed, I still have some of those days. I mean, we all do, where it's just like, what's the bother? And it's because there's something to learn today that I can use for tomorrow. And, whether that is going to the gym or whether that is um, learning to write and just getting your words out. I mean, just it's been said, don't stop learning, all of that. That really just for me it would be don't stop growing because I'm just I just want to always be um, just a work in progress.
We are. We are a work in progress. And thank goodness, because man, if he's finished, I'm in trouble.
That's right.
Yeah, I love that. So is there anything that you would like our audience to hear as we wrap it up? You've got a podcast that you want to launch very soon, and well, we're working on a book to come out so that we can have a collections of these writings. But is there anything else, any message that you want to leave with our listeners that is a part of this devotional message and journey and place? That God's given you that you want our audience to hear?
Um, you know, truthfully, I'd love to give you a taste of one of the devotions.
Oh, do you have one right now you would read to us?
I do. I do. That
Come
might be
on, read
easier.
it. I mean, yes.
Okay.
All right, audience, sit down.
Uh,
Get out your notepad, record this, whatever. Yes, that would be great.
okay. All right. This one's called The Shift. Um, there are seasons in life when something inside of you begins to change, quietly at first, almost imperceptibly. A stirring, a restlessness, a holy discomfort that whispers, you can't stay here. That whisper is the beginning of the shift. It's the moment when God gently disrupts that once felt comfortable. So, I'm sorry, it's that moment when God gently disrupts what once felt comfortable and he can guide you into what is next. The shift doesn't always announce itself with clarity. Sometimes it arrives as tension, sometimes as a closed door, sometimes as an ache you can't explain. But if you listen closely, you'll hear something underneath it all, a divine invitation to move, to grow, to surrender, to step forward. When God begins to move you, the shift is rarely convenient. It stretches your faith, unsettles your routines, and forces you to release control. You may not understand it. You may not feel ready. You may not know where the new roads lead, but God never moves you without purpose. He shifts you when you've outgrown a season. He shifts you when the environment around you no longer aligns with the calling within you. He shifts you when he has prepared something greater than what you're currently holding. And sometimes he shifts you simply because he loves you too much to let you stay small. I'm going to stop right there, Scott, because it does go on. But I love that last bit. He shifts you simply because he loves you too much to let you stay small.
Oh, I love that. All of that. That was so rich. You know,
Thank you.
I like the whole story of that, that listen, get quiet. Then God says, hey, I'm fixing to do something to you and you're going to move, you're going to change. And I love that. Thank you. I mean, this is what the podcast is all about. Are your devotions. Thank you. You gave us a gift, man. I love it.
Uh, thank you. I appreciate it. And
So do you have a title yet for your podcast? If somebody wants to get a hold of these devotions, how would they get a hold of you?
I don't know yet. I might have to grab you for some more time and see what we can put together because you're the master in all of this.
Okay, well, audience, stay tuned because
There
what's
you
going to
go.
happen before very long, we're going to give you a way to get to some of these devotionals and so that you can begin to feel and receive the things that Kellee has gone through and that how God has shaped her life and things that she's let go of, things that she's been able to embrace. So, but I want to thank you, Kellee. Thank you so much for being transparent and opening up and sharing some very sensitive things about your life, how you got to where you were. I'm sorry about the loss of your mother, your brother, your sister. It's no fun to lose
Thank
the
you.
people that are closest to us. But thank God that Peter came your way and you
Amen.
two connected. I think that's just beautiful. So
Absolutely.
God bless you for that. And audience, man, I just want to thank you for tuning in again to the Change Energizer podcast. I mean, did you hear some stuff that raised a trust credit score? Can you trust Kellee in all that she's saying and doing? That's what it's all about. So stay tuned for our next episode. Stay tuned for more information about Kellee, and we'll get it to you. So thank you so much for being here today. Have a great day.